All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this lesson one from the organic module. So, in this last module for organic forms, what we're now going to do is we're going to try and familiarize ourselves with primarily understanding organic forms, how we can manipulate them, and how we can then make more complex shapes. And then at the end of this module, we're gonna do like a sort of a test to combine everything that we've learned in this course, right? So the last thing, very similar to the scene building, is I'm gonna have you guys build a scene with all of the things that we've discussed, right? But that's for later. So in this lesson, we're gonna just simply look at contour lines, and primarily the contour lines of amorphous organic shapes. Something that you often are required to do in either the warm-up sessions of the ArtWad program or during the part one assignments, because in these part one assignments, especially for organic, that's where I want you to get like familiar with just finding your way around organic shapes and not and kind of grasping some sort of spatial awareness before moving on into designing anything or even studying something. Just getting familiar with organic shapes is the most important one. Okay, so the thing that we're going to discuss in this lesson is just how can we interpret more organic shapes and primarily shapes that don't make sense, right? So what I mean by that is, like, if we have a very amorphous shape like this, how do we read this, interpret this, and how do we give it volume? Because we can give it volume in a number of ways, and that's going to be like the gist of this lesson. Is the contours, the cross section that we determine for shapes like this, is what's going to determine its volume. Now, you could say that we can just interpret it like having contours that look, something like this. Right? This could very much be the case. Right, so I'm just going to add some dotted lines through this. So this could be the volume of this shape. However, this exact same shape could also look like this. And so now what we've basically done is we've subtracted either the cross section or we've manipulated the cross section or the contour. And so the resulting shape would look a little different, but the silhouette would stay the same. Right? And so that's why the thing that we're going to focus on in this lesson is just trying to familiarize ourselves with cross sections like this and try to indicate various contour lines on various very simple organic shapes. So what your assignment is going to be for this lesson is you're going to establish a vast number of organic shapes. And they can have any type of shape. Right? And you'll see that you often try to do the same thing. So I encourage you to try something else. Right? Or try something completely different. Right? And from these shapes, you are now going to determine how these cross sections could look like. What these cross sections could look like. So for instance, this one, right? It could be a number of things, right? So by indicating the first contour, I'm already indicating sort of how the rest of the structure is going to look, except for the internal shapes that we can always change. But it's also going to determine our perspective, which is also important, right? Because that's the thing that you should also keep in mind. Like the contours that I'm drawing here, they're basically contours in perspective, right? So same here. When I draw this, the contour section for this, right, I'm already going to establish some sort of perspective. Same here. Now you need to keep in mind then when you establish a contour line for whatever it is you're drawing, for whatever shape, that contour line needs to make sense. And what I mean by that is, imagine if I were to, I'm going to redraw, so I'm going to draw through this one for a second. Just to give you an idea of what I mean. So if I were to draw this shape again, and you guys submit a contour that looks like this, I'm not gonna buy it. Now the reason that is because you're essentially cheating it. The reason that is because if the contour is as wide as it is, right here, and we're not seeing, so if I were to draw through this, right, that contour would be wider, right? So we would actually, the shape would look more like this, right? So it needed to be wider, and because you've essentially cheated this contour, it would resemble more like if we were to look at it from the front, like the contour would look like this. Now, I'm gonna know from looking at your submissions whether you're intended to make something like this or whether you didn't, right? That's gonna be my evaluation to judge, but I want your contours that you establish for your different amorphous shapes, they need to make sense, right? So they don't need to, the contour of the cross section doesn't or shouldn't look alienated from what the actual form or silhouette looks like. Right, so it needs to make sense with your silhouette. That's going to be basically that's going to be the prerequisite for this lesson. So this one is pretty easy. It's the first lesson. All I want you to do, again, right, is you're going to draw 20 of them, just 20, very easy. Right? You're going to draw 20 random organic shapes, and you're going to indicate a cross section on them, and you're also going to draw through it, right? So it needs to make sense that when you draw through your shape, that we can see the volume of that shape, and we can also understand why you chose it and why it now has that resulting silhouette, or that the silhouette at least makes sense, right? That's going to be important. All right. So that's going to be your assignment for this lesson. Again, so very quickly, easy lesson. This is just to get warmed up for the rest of the lessons. All right? So I'll see you in the next one, and have fun.